Denise Gwen, reading aloud for you from my short story, The Greasy Spoon, Chapter 54. The judge sat in profile to Nick behind his desk, gazing raptly at a monitor. As Nick closed the door, the judge's robe, hung neatly on a coat hook affixed to the back of the door, fluttered gently as the door clicked shut. The judge's monitor had a full-screen view of a pretty blonde reporter standing in front of the broken gate with the Happy Hollow Farm sign above her head and with the pig cartoon clearly visible and off to her left shoulder. The reporter yelled into her microphone, but her voice sounded muffled against all the noise and the blaring of sirens in the background. "Geez, old Pete's, will you look at that?" the judge said, his gaze fixed on the monitor. "It's a big old hairy mess up there. Why, my goodness gracious, what's the world coming to, I ask you? I sent Maureen home. This kind of thing scares the golly gee willies out of her, and I told her everybody's gone to see. What a bunch of looky-loos we got on our hands, oh my! So we may as well call it a day. We won't get anything more done today, so I told her, why don't you head on home and come on back tomorrow morning bright and early, and we'll see what we can see. Am I right?" Nick said nothing. "Geez, old Pete's, will you look at that?" The news video showed police officers attempting to herd hogs into a pasture and not doing a fine job of it. The hogs, enjoying their sudden freedom, ran and cavorted and galloped around in the pasture, doing what comes natural to hogs and looking pretty goddamn happy to be doing it from what Nick could see. The camera panned to the outside of the pole barn, and there was Jeb's truck still parked. And was he imagining it, or did the tired trucks of Clem's truck, peeling it out of there, look as if they'd been coated in a bright neon color on the dusty yard? Because that's all Nick could see, the tracks he'd gouged into the dirt when he tore out of there. And had anybody noticed it yet, that there'd clearly been a second truck at the scene, and that second truck was now gone? He licked his lips. "Well, I tell you what, that's a mighty big conflagration out there, and I just don't know what to make of it," the judge said, reaching for his coffee cup and taking a sip. The cup had "World's Best Dad" printed on it. Aww. The judge kept talking. "I've been listening to the news ever since it started, and they say there's lots of dead people out there. Geez, old Pete's, I tell ya. Who'd imagine such a thing in Parkersburg? Am I right?" And as the judge set down the coffee cup and turned to look at his visitor, a lot of things happened at the same time. And before the judge could reach into his top desk drawer and pull out whatever firearm he'd stored away in there, Nick stalked right up to the judge's desk and leaned across it and placed the gun against the judge's forehead, and the judge spluttered his coffee and choked and hacked, and some of the spittle landed on Nick's face, and the judge kept his left hand down and out of sight, still reaching into the desk drawer, and Nick pressed the gun a little more deeply into the judge's forehead and said, "No." The judge froze, his left hand out of view. "You reach for that gun, and I will blast you, sir." A beat. The judge did not move. "Take your hand out of that drawer and lift both hands in the air and stand right up." This did not please the judge. Young man, you look a sight. I am a sight, Your Honor. Hands up, or I will blow your fucking head off. The judge raised his hands. What do you want? Stand up, sir. Hands in the air. Stand up. The gun remained fixed on the judge's forehead. Put that gun down and let's discuss this like men. Stand up. The judge raised his hands and stood up slowly. He cocked his head. Are you in any way responsible for that mess out yonder? Nick kept the gun glued to the judge's forehead. Judge Obermeyer, you have an impermissible conflict of interest. I beg your pardon. Judge Obermeyer, you're a secret shareholder in Happy Hog Farms, LLC. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I am not, and it's in your son's name. The judge laughed mirthlessly. Young man, you don't got your facts straight. Why, I said as much to you earlier today when you strutted in here with that asshole partner of yours. You have a son, Judge. No, I don't. I've got 4 daughters, and you've got a son, Judge, and he lives in a group home. The judge glared at him. His Adam's apple bobbed. How did you? I happen to know someone who works there. You asshole. Yep. Your wife don't even know about him. Ain't that fine? Ain't that nice? You persuaded the boy's mother to give him her maiden name, and that's how you did it, you sneaky bastard. That's how I did what exactly? You secretly bought up shares in your son's name, and you're a secret partner on the board of directors, and you've got a 40% share. How is that a conflict? It's a conflict, all right. And you and the shareholders are planning to sell Happy Hog Farms to Bryson Pork Products. And you were looking forward to Jeb McAllister losing his farm and its 800 acres because you needed to sweeten the deal. A beat. You stand to make millions. The judge's eyes glittered. You knew all this before you sashayed into my courtroom this morning? Nick nodded. If you knew all this, why didn't you speak up earlier today? Nick winced. It served my client to let you railroad Jeb McAllister. That's not very Christian of you, young man. When it suited you, you kindly kept your mouth shut. But now all of a sudden you've got principles? Seriously, Judge? Seriously? Are we seriously having this conversation? The judge lunged for his desk drawer, but Nick got there first. He rammed his hips against the desk and pushed it 6 inches forward, thrusting the drawer into the judge's hips. He grunted, and Nick pressed the gun even harder into his forehead. Are you going to shoot me? I wasn't planning on it, but I will if you fuck with me. The judge pointed an admonishing finger at him. Young man, you will not speak disrespectfully to me. Sorry, Your Honor. Okay, so what now? I want you to walk backwards into your bathroom right there and then close the door and lock it. I can't walk backwards. Nick snorted. Take 1 step back, then another. You'll manage. The judge hesitated, a quick glance at the drawer. Nick pressed his thighs against the desk and pushed the gun barrel hard enough into the judge's forehead to make his head roll back, then lightened the pressure and clicked the trigger. The judge flinched. Come on, Judge, do it. Please, sir. 1 second. 2. The judge looked as if he wanted to say something further, then decided against it. He pushed his chair back until it bumped up against the wall. He took 1 step backwards. Now, keep on walking backwards into your bathroom and close the door. The judge took a 2nd step backwards. I see what you're doing. What am I doing, Judge? Nick asked as he rammed his hips against the desk and pushed it even closer to the wall. Making sure I don't shoot you in the back. That sounds pretty good, Nick said. The bathroom, now. What's going on at that farm anyway, Judge asked. The news is all over it. The bathroom, now. The judge glared at him for a full moment, then finally gave up. He walked backwards into his bathroom. Now close the door. The judge closed the door. Lock it. The door clicked. The minute the door clicked shut, Nick leaned over the desk and pulled out the drawer, grabbed the gun, stuffed it into his left back pocket, then rammed the judge's desk right up against the wall and the bathroom door. He grabbed a bookcase and pulled it down over the desk. There were a lot of books. It made a lot of noise. He stuffed Junior's gun into his back right pocket. I'm leaving now, Judge. The cameras in the courthouse, the judge called out, are catching all of this. No, they're not. The judge did not reply. All right, Judge Obermeyer, Nick called out. You're going to wait 30 minutes before you start yelling for help. Understood? Silence. You didn't see me, and I didn't visit you at your office. You got it? Silence on the other side. Do you hear me, sir? Then, reluctantly, a sigh. Yes. Tomorrow morning, you're going to put on an entry. And in that entry, you're going to recuse yourself from this case and assign a visiting judge. And what are you going to do? Not that it matters, but I'm leaving the firm. Oh, why? Because I'm no longer representing corrupt clients. Another silence. Then the judge chuckled. The chuckle grew in intensity, and soon the judge was laughing. And pretty soon the judge was laughing hysterically. From the way the judge was laughing, Nick figured it was the funniest thing the judge had heard in his entire life. I'm glad that's funny to you, Nick said dryly. You'll be out of business soon enough, son. You be sure and tell me how that works out for you. Oh, boy, I think that's the funniest thing I've heard all day. I'm happy for you, Judge. You're an idiot. You know that? The judge snarled. In any event, Your Honor, I'll be on my way. What's happening out there at the farm? The judge asked. The hounds of hell have been unleashed, Nick said. I'm leaving now, and remember what I said 30 minutes before you call security. Security wouldn't come even if I did call, the judge said mournfully. Everyone's up at that goddamn farm. Have a nice day, Judge Obermeyer. Fuck you!